Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the series where I'm recreating Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic in Minecraft. This is it. This is the final episode for building everything that this game has to offer. In the last video, we went ahead and completed the mansion itself, as well as a small part of the terrain to go in front of it, but today I'm going to be completely wrapping up everything to do with the building side of this project by filling in the rest of the terrain that surrounds the entirety of the factory. Just take a look at how much there is going on here, where the factory still takes up a decent size, but the landscape itself is so much bigger than it. Just the little part that I've added takes up this very small section here, and there is so much more to do. But even if I've only worked on a small part of the terrain so far, it's still given me a good idea of how the rest of it is going to work, as just this small strip pretty much has everything that there is to offer. There's trees scattered all around the hill, there's some rocks along the path, and then the main one is the different variations of the terrain, whether that be grass, some more rocky hills, or some snow at the top of the peaks. And just like every single one of my other projects, this is once again going to be done completely by hand without the use of mods. Now you might say there's more effective ways to do this with the use of mods, however that is not the way I want to go about doing this project. If you're new to my channel, that might come as a surprise to you considering how much there is to work on, however if you've been watching me for a while, you should be used to this by this point. So I think the best way to go about doing this is to continue from where I've already left off, then to just make my way around the back end of the factory before circling all the way around to the other side, then finish off by adding in everything that goes on in front of the factory. I've already got the game opened on a second monitor, so I can just go ahead and get right into building. If I could only give one advice to anyone who's making a project in Minecraft, or I guess anything in general, it would be pace yourself, give yourself a goal to reach, and work up slowly to get to that goal. And that's exactly what I always do, but it was definitely apparent in this build, as though I always do give myself a timeline to follow and a schedule to go off of, I wasn't expecting this to be a multiple week build. I am not even done with the build at the time that I'm recording this time-lapse. I'm still about halfway through, but little did I expect I would still be working on this a week later. The time-lapse doesn't show this off, but this is sped up so much where it just looks like a 3D printer printing things out quickly, when in reality, this took many hours. You know the meme of the Minecraft player pretending to be a Mojang employee where they physically build the entire world by hand? That's pretty much how I feel recreating this right now, except if instead of it being a full world with blocks beneath it, this is just a hollow shell, and instead of placing each one of these different texturing blocks manually, I'm just using a single block, then going back over it again later on with World Edit to paste a certain texture on top of it. That way all of the landscape is consistent throughout. But I mean, just look at how much I've been able to get done in a relatively short amount of time. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't time consuming, it still is taking a long time, but it's weirdly relaxing just being able to place blocks in ways that make it look natural, before then actually turning it into a proper terrain. There's obviously still a lot more left to do though, so let's just go ahead and get right back into it. I think it would be a fun change to actually just put what day it is in the corner every time I get to a new time-lapse, just so you can see how much I do in one day. Now, of course, you shouldn't use me as a reference to follow or anything like that. It is always important that if you are pacing yourself, you are the one in charge of it. You should never push yourself harder than you need to. You are the one who knows what's best for yourself. So even now, just thinking about it, like I see these time lapses and I see that it only took me like 3 or 4 hours to get this part of the build done. It doesn't feel like a lot, but then you remember that that's a big chunk of the day just placing down the same block in a row throughout multiple hours. Like, of course it is eventually going to make up a larger part of the build, but when I'm just placing down the same block over and over again, multiple hours a day, multiple days a week for multiple weeks, it can get a lot. And I say this throughout the start of it, and you're gonna slowly see my descent, not into madness, but I could make a FNAF joke there, but it slowly starts to get a little more tiring. I've talked a lot about how I don't like repetition, and the start of it started out really fun. Placing down natural terrain is honestly a really fun thing to do. It's something I've really enjoyed doing in any Minecraft build. Terrain is something I don't get to work on often, especially for YouTube videos. So being able to do it here is a lot of fun. However, there's only so much of it I think I can do at one time, especially that I'm placing this all by hand. I wasn't joking about that. Of course, that is my problem at the end of the day. I could use mods if I really wanted to, but I'm a stubborn ass and I say no. I want to build this project without mods, and damn it, I'm going to stick to my word. As you can see here, every block is built by hand. Obviously, there are times where if it's a larger flat plane, I'm gonna use World Edit just to fill in that space for me. Like, that's just easy enough. But I'm not using World Edit for the rest of it. That way the terrain is more shaped out the way I want it to, and it's a lot easier for me to form the terrain in the way it should be while keeping all of the features that are seen in game. It is day 4 of building, and while I'm not done for the day just yet, I have just completed everything surrounding the MCM itself. So now everything at the back end of the factory has been fully added, and you can see even with a higher render distance, I still am not able to see the entire mountain range all at once unless I'm standing within the middle of the factory. But before I move on to everything that goes on in front of the factory itself, I first need to take a look at what goes on over here behind this part of the mountain range, as there's actually some city buildings that show up, which of course I need to also add in. Now, making this sound a lot more exciting than it actually is if we actually head on over to the city, you can see that it's just the same building copy pasted multiple times, with there being nothing in between all of them. There is no road, there is nothing like that. In fact, this building right here is just clipping right into the mountain, which I guess is fair enough since we're not able to see this from that far away. This is all just here for filler world building to make it seem like there is some life to this game. So imagine all of this terrain right here leading down a little bit as if it's a hill, and then it's going to lead to a flat surface where I can then put all of those buildings down. I'm not entirely sure what Y level that's going to be at, however I do want to make it still a bit higher up so that way the buildings are still visible all the way from the parking lot. Imagine me actually building something in this video. This should be a very nice change from placing down tens of thousands of terracotta blocks. And I'm not joking about that. If I go ahead and take a look at my statistics, 82,000 cyan terracotta blocks, 52,000 green terracotta. I assume that all the light blue concrete is just from outlining, but I guarantee one of these is reaching 100,000 before this is done. This is probably just me wanting to have built less terrain, but I think it would have been a lot more fun if there were more of these city buildings around the area that MCM it takes place in. Maybe a different variation as well. I mean, it doesn't matter too much again because it's not really something you pay that much attention to. You see it for a few seconds and then you're gone. Don't see it again until the end of the game, but I think it would be more fun to have different variations, because with these buildings there's only two types. There's the more rectangular ones, which are more wide and have a quartz base to them, and then there's the more squarish ones, which are a lot smaller but just have a brick base to them. They were really fun to make, and I wish there could have been more to do. And there we have it. Just like in game, it is the same two buildings copy and pasted all around the place, but rotated to fit the different orientations. But I gotta be honest, I actually kind of like how close they are to each other. I've brought this up a lot throughout the series where I like the tight and claustrophobic alleyways. That doesn't just mean like having building corridors be tight and compact, but also these even larger city streets are really fun, and you can just imagine how it would be like here is a perfect place to put like a town square or something as roads interconnect to different parts of this place. I honestly really like this, and I will absolutely be adding more to this in the future. Right now, I'm just leaving it as it is because this is what's seen in game. However, once I've finished with all the building, I really want to just go back on maybe a live stream or something. I just hit my mic. Maybe add in some proper roads and surrounding areas on a live stream or something. I feel like that would be a really fun thing to do, and since I brought it up, I might as well mention, a lot of you don't know, but I do stream every Saturday and sometimes Sunday if there's not a video coming out. I don't really promote this stuff during my videos, but in case you didn't know, I do stream every Saturday, so if you want to hang out and chat with me live, make sure you're subscribed with all notifications turned on. So with the city buildings now added, I would say we're around the halfway point of it all, which sounds very overwhelming considering how much I've already done, and to think that there is still so much more to be added. But considering I've done all of this in just 4 days, I would say I'm on pretty good track to get this done in a reasonable amount of time. This was the part of the build where it really started to hit harder than the rest of it, as unlike with everything else so far, I'm not working around the base of a building. Everything throughout the rest of the terrain is purely just terrain. There is no buildings in the way of it for me to work around, meaning outlines are going to be even harder, and it's going to be more difficult for me to get a reference of what should go where, what size, what shape, and what scale. So it gives me a lot more freedom to mess around with different shapes and sizes, but at the same time, it's very difficult without being able to outline anything. So you can see throughout this, I'm trying my best to outline little bits and pieces of the general shape of where something should start and where it should end. But again, it's very difficult when it comes to natural terrain, which is why for some of this build, I just decide that I'm keeping the details as close as possible. However, I know for a fact it's not going to be one for one, especially because the MCM is already scaled differently from the exterior and the interior to all the terrain around it. It's going to be a bit harder to make it one-to-one, specifically when details are obviously going to be bigger in Minecraft compared to the actual game itself. However, like I also mentioned, this is also around the time where we're near the halfway point of the build, and this is when I slowly started to lose it a bit. I swear sometimes this game is making me feel like I'm actually going insane. Check out the level of detail of this game. Oh. Oh. It's so silly. It just, anytime you go near an object, ooh, just the way it warps in and out. Oh, it's so silly. God, I hope this is getting picked up on YouTube, because otherwise it's actually going to sound like I'm going insane. Never before have I been halfway through a build and I've lost the difference between reality and what this game is. I've spent so long recreating this bloody terrain. Oh, this is also really trippy. Whoa. Oh, that's really weird. Oh, what on earth? Whoa. It genuinely feels like I'm just... I'm spending way too long on this. I'm actually starting to go insane. Never mind, I actually am. On the bright side though, I'm very close to being done. It's just this little part left, or whatever you consider little when it comes to doing this. It definitely wasn't little, but at the same time, I locked in for day 7. I woke up bright and early, had about 5 cups of tea, which is probably an exaggeration, but I got everything done today. I wanted to make sure that I could get it done somewhat early, so that way, if there were any mistakes, I was able to go back and rework some of the terrain a little bit, as again, this is very time consuming. It's not just like replacing a color of a wall anymore. This is a full-on landscape. Luckily though, this final part is a bit easier compared to the rest, as though it is more hilly terrain, it's mostly just mountains now. There's not as much trees, there's not as much general detail going on, there's no lakes, because we're not able to see as much from this distance. In fact, because of this, there's actual times in the in-game map where it doesn't even load parts of the terrain because the player is never going to see it. But I still went ahead and added in and filled in those gaps because we could see it from those angles. So I just decided to make this one giant block of a rectangle with trees and mountains and grass fields going across the entire thing. Obviously, if you walk up to the edge of it, you're just going to see a massive drop down to the world below, but when you're standing in the parking lot, which is the ideal place for it all, it looks like the entire world has come together to form the map that we see just like in-game. It is done. I'm actually having to play on max render distance right now, which is 32 chunks, just so that I'm actually able to see everything all in one go. In fact, let me go ahead and turn on the minimap so that way we can get a better look at everything all together. I mean, just look at how much there is going on here. Obviously, there are some parts where it's not going to fill up the entire map because, like I mentioned, sometimes the world isn't shown off in-game, so once we get to the borders of all of this terrain, it's just going to be a big gap that leads down to the world below. But that's not too big of a problem because, again, we're never really supposed to see the world from that angle, and I really don't want to build an entire world surrounding this map. Oh my god. This is my first time seeing it from this angle, and oh my goodness, there is so much going on here. It is really hard to believe that the entire game takes place inside this building. It looks so small compared to everything now. Maybe, like, building bigger games like the CuppaTeaExe has really just numbed me to how big that game really was, because this looks like nothing. I understand I'm hundreds of blocks up as well, but at the same time, like, the factory genuinely feels like nothing. It is really hard to believe that everything that goes on in the game is all here, and everything's covered up as well. Like, we can't even see any of the basements anymore. The entire basement floors have been completely covered up by the terrain now, which makes it look a lot more natural and, I mean, obviously more complete. And I want to bring this up before I forget, as I've been thinking about this throughout this entire build, but the last time I worked on a terrain-based video was back in 2020 or 2021 when I was building the Lost River from Subnautica, which was a pretty small YouTube series I had where I was building a small cave diorama of the Lost River, which was about the size of this parking lot, honestly. It wasn't a very big build, but it still took me so long to get it done because I spread it out so much because it was a big terrain build, which obviously is very time-consuming. So not only has it been really cool to see this build come together throughout all of these weeks, but also seeing my progression as a builder throughout these years. I'm really glad that I didn't stop building, even if I'm just recreating more games years on later. But you know, now that this build has been fully completed, I can finally answer the question that I'm sure everyone has had since episode 1, which is the age-old question of if MCM can fit inside the Roxy Raceway. I have waited to do this for myself until I was done with the project, and it's finally time to see if that rumor is true or not. Now, it would probably be unfair to do this comparison with all of the exterior fully added, so I've gone back to a previous backup where I had just finished the exterior. Actually, it looks like I haven't even finished the build itself, but this should be a bit more of a fair comparison. Well, I guess this is already a bit cheating because I did actually make a custom exterior to my custom CuppaTeaExe, so maybe it would be okay, but I've gone ahead and made a backup. There is no way in hell I am doing this on my original save. And let's see how this is going to work in the raceway. Wow, this is a lot bigger than I remember it. I honestly don't know. I mean, this doesn't look that big, but at the same time, I guess it's because it's very wide and open, but alright, let's see. Schematic load, MCM, oh boy. Uh-oh. Okay. 400,000 blocks. Nearly 500,000. Uh-oh. Oh. Well, it actually helps if the build is the right rotation. Whoa. Oh. Uh-oh. Oh. There is no way. Okay, well, the parking lot is definitely doing some cheating, but like... Really? There we go. I love how it all just pastes in at once. I don't know. You know, I gotta be honest, I don't think it really can. I mean, to give it the benefit of a doubt, there is a lot of filler space. Nope, that's not really, actually. You know, I don't think this is going to work. I've got an idea. That wasn't my only Roxy Raceway I built, as I also did Ruin, and this seems to be a bit bigger. I don't know, it's a bit difficult to tell, but this seems to be bigger, so let's give this a go. No, it seems to be a little bigger, but I gotta be honest, I'm honestly surprised as how much is actually fitting in the Roxy Raceway, I gotta be honest. Again, maybe something to do with the scaling of Minecraft builds. Obviously, this is not going to be one-to-one, whether that be the Ruin build or the Secret of the Mimic build, but god, how weird is this, seeing the Roxy Raceway with just MCM inside of it? Like, isn't that not just ridiculous? At the same time, like, I honestly wasn't expecting it to at least fit at all, but yeah, I guess I've really forgotten how big the CuppaTeaExe really is. Uh-oh. I've been on the screen for a bit long now. Good thing I made a backup of those worlds. Yep, there it goes. I've still got one last thing I want to try out before I'm done with this. So what I've done is copied the outlines of the Secret of the Mimic build, and I'm going to paste them in the outlines of the Ruin Roxy Raceway build. So I've kept copies of both worlds, and let's see what this is going to look like. Assuming this is in the right rotation. Right, I forgot I'm not pasting the parking lot anymore. I'm spending a long time on this, but at this point, I'm genuinely curious, because I think I might be close, so... Oh, it doesn't matter, it's just a tiny bit. In fact, yeah, that little bit over there, the entrance is clipping into the beauty salon, so... you know, a bit closer. It's a lot closer than it was before. This is the Dolly Hospital basement, which again, doesn't look like anything at all. I don't know, this was still a really fun experiment. This was completely unrelated to anything at all, but I mean, I've wanted to see this since I started, and I've been waiting for this day to finally see it, and you know, honestly, not disappointed. But now actually going back to the MCM world, I just want to quickly go through the entire build one last time, as I don't really take time to do this, you know, I spend a lot of time making these builds, but as soon as I'm done with it, I kind of just move along to the next part. While I'm here actually, I just want to point out, this staircase never actually led to anywhere, which is a little bit annoying. I guess we're never going to find out what went there, but like, I never really take the time to go through these maps because I finished working on one episode and I immediately want to work on the other. I just love building. Like, when I get started on something, I really just want to continue on and see what's going on next. So before I start adding in any of the gameplay or the animatronics, which I do want to actually add in, that will be coming up very soon, I just want to quickly go through all of it again because, again, it feels so weird how much I've been able to get done relatively quickly. I mean, the first Pizzaplex took me 4 months to make, excluding the commands. The commands took another 4 months, so I was basically working on that for the entire year. Ruin obviously took a lot longer because I was also working on the gameplay. With this, I want to do a balance of the few, where I do want to add in gameplay, but I also don't want to spend more than a year working on this. I do plan on getting this done sometime this year, but I mean, yeah, I remember building all this, and it feels so long ago, but it feels like yesterday at the same time. I really don't know. I'm not used to seeing finished projects. Like, this is only something you see every so often, once you've actually finished building everything, and seeing it all completed, seeing one doorway lead to another. I'm just flying through Plux right now, trying to find my way around the place. Like, seeing everything finally connect to someplace somewhere else is really satisfying, but at the same time, like, I don't know what else to do now. Like, the build is done. Obviously the gameplay, but as for the build, it's done. No more placing blocks. Now it's just going to be the fun part of thousands of command blocks, I guess. But yeah, this has been a really, really cool project. I'm getting a bit off at the end here, but like, this is really, really cool. This might end up being my favorite Minecraft project I've ever worked on, which is saying a lot considering I still have a lot more that I want to do. But this has genuinely been so fun to work on, and I really do hope that you have all enjoyed watching this as well. Oh, and if we go ahead and take a look at the block count, I missed it, but I told you it would happen. 112,000 cyan terracotta blocks, 72,000 green terracotta, and 50,000 white terracotta. Take that, all you World Edit and Axiom users. I did it the old-fashioned way, and I got it done. But that is now going to wrap it up for not only this video, but also for building the entirety of Secret of the Mimic in Minecraft. Once again though, just because the build itself has been completed, doesn't mean that I'm done with this map just yet, as like I keep saying, there are tons more that I want to add, whether it be functionality with command blocks for gameplay, whether it be the lighting so that way we're actually able to make our way around the place, or any other fun features that I want added to make this map even more fun to explore. I'll get a list started for all of the features that I do plan on adding, and I'll be sure to get started on them throughout future videos, as well as potentially some live streams. So to make sure that you don't miss out on any of that, make sure to subscribe to the channel with all notifications turned on. That way you don't miss out on the next time I upload, and can also help the channel to continue to grow. But with that being said, thank you everyone so much for watching, and I will of course see you in my next video. This lake looks like a fish, and it's farting. There's fart bubbles coming out the back end of it. God, I have spent too long doing this. I need to do other things.